Luke Troy. I don't think I've actually heard Luke's work before. Oh no, I have. Yeah, you are as good as Helen says. Yeah. So, Luke Troy.
Well, that's something to live up to. Yeah. Hey everybody, I am Luke, and a lot of the poems that I do tend to come from a place of pride, something that I believe in and I'm passionate about. This is not so much one of those. This is yeah, that's it. Okay. This is more about something that I believe I need to work on, and I think a lot of people need to work on, and about how sort of easy it is to sort of champion yourself as on the right side of something and then not really do the work. I'd like to start by acknowledging my complete and total ignorance of the traditional caretakers of this land. I'd like to acknowledge that I don't know what the word Noongar means. I have no idea who the people were that lived here, or what they called themselves, or what they called this land. I'd like to acknowledge that I have no close Indigenous friends that I'm aware of. I'd like to acknowledge that until recently, I didn't even know the name of the man on the $50 note. I'd like to acknowledge that I know the name of Captain Cook without even having asked for it, but I know near nothing of the heroes and the villains of the lands he invaded. I'd like to acknowledge that Cook is honoured in works of ink and canvas, while the men revered by the invaded were lost to history. Imagine how much of a shit they gave about the women. I'd like to acknowledge that the man they chose to honour on this yellow note was well-mannered, Christian, and used perfect English, helping to break stereotypes about Aboriginals. I'd like to acknowledge that in honouring Cook, they chose to honour a white supremacist and a scout for an imperial dictator, failing to break stereotypes about Englishmen. I'd like to acknowledge that if an Aboriginal finishes year 12, their unemployment rate is 10%, way above the 3% national average. I'd like to acknowledge that in general, an Aboriginal will have to slow through far more bullshit than the average to finish high school, but is still 3 times more likely to be out of work. I'd like to acknowledge that Aboriginals are less than 1 in 30 people in Australia, but more than 1 in 4 in prisons. I'd like to acknowledge that Aboriginal kids born this decade will die a decade earlier than everyone else. I'd like to acknowledge that I can achieve success against the odds through my own grit and determination, or I can be destroyed by circumstances outside my control, and in both cases I still benefit from being white. I'd like to acknowledge that I don't even know all the ways I benefit, but I have no idea what it's like to be an Aboriginal person today, that I don't get it. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm afraid of being condescending. I'm afraid in trying to help, our approach will just be imperial integration, or funding a cycle of dysfunction, or just not doing anything when we should be doing something, or somehow missing their humanity. I'd like to acknowledge that racism is in me, that my heartbeat goes up when I see something threatening at night, that my heartbeat is more easily threatened by Aboriginal people, despite having been assaulted several times, but never by a black person. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm absorbed by myself and the other causes that I've chosen. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm unlikely to address my ignorance in any significant way. I'd like to acknowledge that I have sacrificed nothing in writing this poem. I'd like to acknowledge that acknowledgement isn't enough. Thank you.
Okay, so I've only read through this one, once. This is by Ali Cobby Eckermann, and it's called Thunder, Raining, Poison. This poem is a response to the installation Thunder, Raining, Poison, created by the Kokota glass artist Peony Scarce. It is a statement about the impact of atomic bomb testing on our traditional lands at Maralinga in South Australia by the British government during the 1940s and the 1960s. Oh, through to the 1960s. Thunder, raining, poison. A whisper arrives, 2,000 or more. Did you hear it? That bomb, the torture of red sand turning green, the anguish of earth turned to glass. Did you hear it? 2,000 or more. Yams cremated inside the earth. Poison trapped in glass like a museum. Did you hear it? 2,000 or more tears we cried for our land, for the fear you gave us, for the sickness and the dying 2,000 years of memory here. 2,000 or more, peaceful this place, happy place till you come with your bombs. You stole our happiness with your poison ways. You stole our stories, 2,000 or more. Our people gone missing. Did you hear it? Where's my grandfather? Have you seen him? Where's my daughter? Have you seen her? Mummy, you see my mum? Dad? 2,000 or more times I asked for truth. Do you know where they are? 2,000 or more trees dead with arms to the sky, all birds missing, no bird song here, just stillness like a funeral. 2,000 or more, a whisper arrives, did you hear it? 2,000 or more, it sounds like glass, our hearts breaking, but we are stronger than that. We always rise, us mob. 2,000 or more. You can't break us. We are not glass. We are people. 2,000 or more. Our spirit comes together. We make a heart. Did you see it in the fragments? It's there in the glass. 2,000 or more. Our hearts grow as we mourn for our land. It's part of us. We love it, poisoned and all.
Is my favourite contemporary Australian poet. She was one of the stolen generation. She wrote my favourite Australian poem, Intervention Payback. If anyone hasn't read it, go and find it. It's brilliant and break your heart. This is called Black Deaths in Custody. And the best thing is this has gone out to 500,000 plus people in print form, but there's millions of readers in America. It's fucking huge. Black Deaths in Custody. Despite the cost, a new jail has been built. It seems the incarceration rates are trebling. I only came here in the role of a deaths in custody inspector. All the cells are stark and spotless. Blank screens watch from the corner. The officers have the highest technology, and the faces of the staff still look the same. When I walk down this wing and peer into this filthy room, the door closes behind me. The feeling in my heart is changing from a proud strength of duty to fear. All the stories I've ever heard stand silent in the space beside me. A coil of rope is being pushed under the door of this cell. Ali Cobby Eckermann.
Okay, this is called Genocide. Later on, he's there, eyes roomier than normal, which is not unusual, being harangued with affectionate swat of the shoulder. You got $10, uncle? Oh, no. Okay, see you home tonight. Passing by, atmosphere dictates they're going to blame you, and probably rightly so. That's in that dodgy alcove, Centre Point Shopping Centre. No CCTV to be seen. Same place, 10:45am, Wednesday the 9th of January 2013. Making way to train. Shove! Leave now! You're drunk! Leave now! Shove! Into a clinch, eye to eye, brow to brow, shoulders to shoulders, chest to chest, face off. I'm an Aboriginal, an Australian Aborigine, and I'm walking in my people's own country. Shove! You're drunk! Shove! Happened so quick, with time in perpetuity. It was a double backward stagger, lurch, just a slight biblum chap, if from that nation. Wasn't just alcohol or any sort of exaggerated performance. Substantial brutalisation, felled like timber from motherland. Poleaxe, their straight form backward trajectories to meet brick paving right at your feet. The plunk flat on the back. The whack, head double bounces on masonry like a billiard ball, laid out like already on forensic stainless. Eyes pop open, size of saucers, observers all in state of shock. Aggravant leaps in with fear in their aura, heaves the innocent to their feet. You meet their gaze straight and stony to show these actions are not to be tolerated. Look that returned is one of entirely intimidated. Gathering wits, grab the chap's coin, spilt from pockets, not illegal gain. Passing the tender, you make the statement, that knock on the head was quite severe. Could be a case of concussion here, to which you get a reply, I'll call an ambulance as soon as he leaves the premises, and off he shuffled once again. Decide your welfare now should be paramount, and parting comment what you feel best said. Please, both of you take care. Have a good day. Steps are taken, encounter onlookers who make the comment, that gent was really treated badly. These sad affairs make getting through the day a difficult task. Makes my head hurt is how I reply. As I gaze towards the scene from the train as it prepares to leave the station, security bloke is on the phone, Aboriginal man is walking away. Apologies are tendered to all who witness this dialogue and feel it's presented in form of incident report, not the way it's intended. Find attached author's note. This prose was penned, coward, poet, human, lump in throat.
Out of an argument that I had on Facebook, and it was the same argument over and over again with so many different people that I decided, well, what the fuck, and I'll just write a poem and send it to them. Every single one. So I did. Just got to find it. Fucking hell. I can never find it when I want to. This is from my zine, by the way, which isn't for sale tonight, so because I forgot to bring it. Poetry from Hell. And the illustrations are mine too. Yeah. Free land. Free land! Come and get it! Free land! Just don't ask any questions. Free land! Are you sure this land is free? Yeah. I said don't ask any questions. Hey, isn't that a human footprint? Nah. Well, it sure looks like one to me. Nah, this land is empty. Terra nullius. Unsettled. This is a new country. Young and free. Oh, full of possibilities. Wait a minute, nothing ever comes for free. There are always strings attached to things, like guilt, blame, greed, shame. I heard this is an ancient country with an ancient nation of people, the oldest living culture in the world. What? Oh, you mean the Boons? Oh, they're not a nation. They're not even people. They're more like apes. Sitting around on their... I mean, just look at them. Sitting around all day on their fat, lazy asses, eating bananas, getting angry, beating each other up, getting drunk, yelling and screaming. What are they screaming? Oh, I don't know. Go on, you white cunts! You see, they're not exactly trying to win our hearts. But hang on, weren't they dispossessed of their land? Locked up in reservations? Used for slaves for generations? Used as slaves for generations? Sexually abused, beaten, shot? Their sacred sites desecrated? Their religion and language banned and now almost lost? Why would they want to win our hearts? Oh, well, you must understand, it was their own fault. They were primitives, just begging to be assimilated into our much more progressive society. Progressive? Yeah. We've got Foxtel. They've got nothing to show for their culture, nothing to show for their history. Oh, no castles, no pyramids, no nuclear reactors, no banks, no credit, no massive oil tankers, no giant oil slicks. Not even an oil slick. Nothing to show for themselves. But weren't they hunter-gatherers? They didn't need pyramids or credit. They traded with other tribes and had few possessions in their lives. Most possessions were collectively owned by the whole tribe. They still keep these traditions alive, even in the cities today. Their wealth is about knowledge and sharing, not about how many material objects they can hoard and display. Oh, well, it's their own fault then. If they want to be accepted, they should be like us. We've given them loads of chances. They should just get on the bus. Hang on. Where are we? Get regular jobs and a mortgage. Then they'd be happy like us. What, you're happy being a slave to your mortgage? Bloody oath! But they don't need to work some mindless job 8 hours a day. Many of them prefer to live their traditional way and integrate it with our culture, sharing their knowledge of country and how the land stays fertile, making their culture an essential part of ours. Hunter-gatherers only need to hunt, gather and prepare food for around 3 hours a day. The rest of their time can be spent doing what they deem most important: socialising, spirituality and play, making art, making utensils, singing, dancing, making music, making love, telling stories, teaching tribal law, teaching the young about country. How do you spend your day? Oh, but how can they afford to buy a home that way? How can they afford to buy a house that way? Traditionally, they don't need houses, just makeshift shelters like tents as they move nomadically around their territories. Then why do they live like bums in outback slums? Because our government makes it illegal for them to be gypsies on their own land. We've degraded it with hoofed animals and pollution, taken their most fertile land and won't give them as much funding as white communities. So they're stuck in limbo land. Well, it's still their own fault. I mean, they're dysfunctional. And now they're blocking traffic. Just because they're being evicted from their outback for their selfish life choice. But that land can be used for much better things that mining, cattle and yellow cat brings. Progress has to happen. It can't live in the past. If your people had been abused, you might be dysfunctional too. And they're not all dysfunctional, and abuse begets abuse. We abuse them first. Oh, don't you use the royal we? I never done nothing to these people. It wasn't me. Now, are you going to take this land or not? What? Look, they've done much worse things than we ever done to them. Really? What could be worse than mass murder, rape, torture, and slavery, stealing your land and making you homeless, stealing your children and making them slaves, beating and sexually abusing them, making it legal to shoot you, making you a non-citizen in your own country, beating the shit out of you in a jail cell and leaving you alone for days without food or water or medicine till you die, exploding nuclear bombs near your home just to see what might happen, and poisoning you and all your loved ones to death with nuclear radiation. Or locking you in a tiny paddy wagon without windows or air conditioning in 100-degree heat for hours until you literally fry to death. What